Going through a divorce will be one of the most excruciating times in your life that you'll ever go through. You have to figure out how to split up assets with your ex. You have to start looking for a new place to live. You also got to start accepting the fact that you're going to be financially challenged, most likely for the rest of your life. And not only that, to add on top, you now have to figure out how to transition your kids through one of the most difficult situations that they'll ever experience, and doing it in such a way where they're not going to end up scarred for life. And it's tragic nowadays how often that happens, where the children are affected the most. They end up hating one or both parents, and most of all, they're dealing with mental health issues that are very hard to overcome at a later stage in life. So what I'm going to share with you today is how me and my ex were able to come together and work on a plan that we're both executing to deliver the best outcome we possibly can for our kids. So that way they feel loved, supported, and cared for every step of the way until they become adults. Now, there is one caveat to this. What I'll share with you in the video later will only work if you have a willing participant. If that's not you, if you're in that position where there's a lot of animosity and you have an ex that is not willing to work with you, then I highly recommend seeking counseling if you haven't done that already, or go see a lawyer and see what action and protections you can get into place. And if you're in that position, I pray for your brothers, sending you strength that you can do this and get through this. But with that said, let me share with you a little bit about how me and my ex were able to work things out. And it's still quite shocking when I think about it, because usually this isn't the case. It can get pretty bitter between both parents, but the time that me and my ex decided to divorce, it was through counseling. We went through a marriage counselor a couple times, and it just ended up being that it wasn't going to work out, and we decided to separate and start taking the steps to divorce. Now, during that time, we decided to also cohabitate and co-parent while still living in the same house. And I actually ended up living with her for 18 months. But at the very beginning, as soon as we made that decision, in about 2 weeks, we talked about the fact that we're gonna have to tell our kids that we're gonna go through a divorce. Now, at that time, this was about 5 years ago, my kids were 8, 6, and 4 years old, so I have 3 boys, so fairly young. And regardless if they're young or old, this is never a process that you want to take lightly, especially when the kids are a little bit older and they understand life a little bit more. So when I spoke to my ex, when we met, we had to align on the message that we wanted to give to our kids. And after much discussion, we decided to keep it as simple as possible. And we decided this was the actual message that we told our kids. We said to them, Mommy and Daddy have decided that they're no longer gonna be married, and that we still love each other, we're still gonna be friends, but we're deciding not to be together anymore. But more importantly, Mommy and Daddy will still be your parents, we still love you, and we're still gonna be here for you. And when we aligned on the message, we decided on a weekend to do it. After breakfast, we pulled them into the living room and said that exact message to them. And they took it very well. I think part of it is because they were very young. I don't think they fully understand the magnitude of what a divorce is at that age. But just keeping it simple and telling them that we're not together anymore, but emphasizing the fact that we still love them, we're still gonna be their mom and dad, and that we're still gonna be friends, regardless of the fact that we can't be together. They took it well. We also offered them time to talk to us if they had any questions, to just bring us into our own room. And, it was an open door policy. And so there were a couple times where they asked why, but I just simply explained that, sometimes things don't work out, and that I'll explain to you when you're older. But that I still love their mom, that she's still their parent, a loving mom, and that we're going to continue being their parents for the rest of their life. They were happy with that. So after we sent the message to them, or gave them the message, we continued to cohabitate, co-parent, living in the same place, so life was still normal for the most part. We're still doing family things to some degree, but we also decided to separate our bedrooms. If you are going to go down this path of co-parenting and cohabitating, highly suggest having your own rooms for obvious reasons. But our kids also enjoyed that too. I think for them, it also demonstrated that, what a separation could possibly look like, in the fact that their mom and dad had their own 2 separate rooms. And they had fun, as we had our own different setups. And so they would spend time in each. And then eventually, when the time came, 18 months down the road, when I decided to finally move out, we then came together again to talk about plans on how we're going to continue managing our relationship with our kids. And so, one of the most important pieces that we aligned on was, even though we're not living together, that we still keep an open line of communication for our kids, whether it's directly to our kids or to each other about things for our kids. So school, activities. If one of the teachers had a problem with one of our kids, we'd both talk about it, so that we'd align on how we're going to talk about it with our kids. And also, we also agreed that during the time that our kids are not with us, if we wanted to spend time with them, 1, 2, or all 3 of them, that we'd have that flexibility, and that it's not going to be perceived as taking time away from the other parent. That was a very important one, because as you go through this process, not only are you maintaining your relationship with all 3 kids, but it's also important to maintain individual relationships for each one. And I'm so grateful for that flexibility that we agreed upon, because it's helped me to get closer with each of my children in ways that are very specific to them. With my youngest son, it's through food and through his karate and through sports. Through my middle son, it's through his art. And through my oldest son, it's through coding and gaming. He loves computers. So spending time with each one of them and understanding how they like to bond is also very important at this stage, especially once you move out and you're actually separated. Just finding your own way to continue building that bond individually is also crucial. And right now, this is 5 years later. There's still, some bumps, but it's a lot smoother than expected. But most importantly, my kids feel the most loved, most cared for. They tell me and their mom that they love us so much. We tell each other we miss each other over text when we're not able to see each other. And during the times when we are together, it's just some of the best times, best experiences, best memories. And it's going to continue because I was able to negotiate and put together a plan that we aligned on. But most importantly, the plan was centrally focused on the best outcome for our kids. So if you are about to go through this path, or already are on this path, I'll share with you a few things that you really need to take into consideration as you go through this transition in life. And if it's not obvious already, you need a plan. And the good news is you have a willing partner who's willing to work with you and align with you. That'll make things a lot easier. And the most important part when you're negotiating with your ex, if they try making it about themselves, which did happen with us at the beginning, was, again, reframing the question by saying, well, how is this going to help our kids? How is our arrangement going to ensure that our kids have the best experience with either of us? And always reframe it back to the best outcome for your kids. And on that note, one of the things that you'll absolutely have to align on is agreeing that you'll never argue or raise your voice or get confrontational with each other in front of your kids or even behind closed doors. There were times when we were living together where we had disagreements and it did get pretty heated, but we never yelled in front of our kids. And there were times where I had to step out of the house and just walk away to cool off. Because the reason why this is important, you probably see this in society very commonly, how kids raised in a toxic environment with parents battling, arguing, abusing each other, how they turn out, it's learned behavior. You're just contributing to the problem, and it's this generational curse that they're gonna have to figure out later on in life. That's not fair to them. So if anything, you will need to really align with your ex and commit to staying positive, diplomatic, and amicable in front of your kids as much as you can. And let's face it, during these times, during a divorce, it's going to challenge you in the worst ways possible. And it's going to test your patience, which is normal. So if that's the case, if you need to step away for a bit to calm down, do it. Same thing with her too. But make that commitment for the mental health and the wellness of your kids down the road. You don't want them growing up scarred for life and having to deal with that trauma later on in adulthood. Another thing you want to take into consideration is once you do move out, is in your new space, you want to start building your own traditions. Things that are special for you and your kids when they're spending time with you, in the same way that you've had traditions when you were together as a family. So I've mentioned this in another video that I'll link at the end of this, but one of the couple of traditions that I have with my kids are pancake Sundays and swimming is our sport. And pancake Sundays has been something we've been doing for 5 straight years. My middle son has really taken a liking to it, and he recently graduated from being the butter man to pancake flipper. So he's taken a keen interest in cooking because of it. But it's something we always look forward to on Sundays. And swimming has become our tradition because there was a time when I was very scared of the water. My ex, while we were together, bought me adult swim lessons. And when I finally found my confidence to swim in the deep end again, my kids were so happy and excited. They were proud of me. And, we continued to just go swimming together, and they've helped me to really overcome my fear. So it's something that we bonded together. You need to find things like that that will become your own family tradition when you're in your own space. So try to come up with 1 or 2 traditions that you can do, that you can establish, that will become memories that they'll cherish later on in life. Another thing that you want to focus on, if this also isn't obvious, is focus on working and developing yourself during the times when you don't have your kids. I'm huge into fitness at this point, and it's been a life changer, not just for my physical wellness, but also my own mental health. Going through a divorce is one of the most challenging times, and you need a way to channel that energy into a positive project or into an activity that'll allow that energy to just exit out of your body so it doesn't wear you down or bear you down. So during the times when you're alone, do the hobbies that you've always wanted to do. Go and connect with people, make new friendships, date again if that's something that you feel that you're ready for. That's one thing I'll also touch on is if you are dating, this is something that me and my ex discussed. We kind of see it a little bit differently, but for the most part agree. I'm very much on the side of, if you're going to date someone, that you don't introduce your kids to them until way later on, until you're at the point where you feel like this is a person that potentially you could be with for the rest of your life. And I've talked to many divorced parents, men and women, who introduced their kids very early on into the relationship. And the common issue that I've heard with that is that it never works out. The relationship doesn't work out. And then all of a sudden there's this connection, this attachment that now that they have to break between their kids and, if you want to call it, their step parent or, their ex. And that's not fair for the kids. That relationship is personal to you and that other person. And, if your ex is still in the picture, around in life, your kids still have a parent. They don't need a second parent. Now, that's just my opinion on it. I've actually dated a woman who also had 2 kids. It was a little bit unique in that she was a widow and I was a divorcee. And we dated for a year until we decided to introduce our kids, because we felt we were really thinking about this could be it and this could possibly work out. And I think unique to our circumstances, when we introduced each other's kids, it went great, but I think her oldest son was still in mourning of the passing of his dad, and him seeing his mom with a new guy in her life who could possibly be, his stepdad, was not working well for him. And so we had to part ways. That was one of the hardest things, was parting ways with someone after you've spent a year building a connection with, and then also meeting wonderful, beautiful kids that, I wanted to also spend time with, but the timing just wasn't right. So just with my own experience and from what I've heard from others, if you can prolong introducing your kids to your new girlfriend or your new boyfriend, whoever you're dating, for as long as possible, it will be in the benefit of the kids. Because the last thing you want is for them to create a relationship that they're attached to, that now you're gonna have to break, especially if the relationship doesn't end well. Now, there's one more thing I want you guys to take into consideration. At the end of the day, you have to remind yourself that no matter what happens on this journey, when things get very hard, that your ex is still the mother of your children. And because she's the mother of your children, you have to respect the fact that you can also make things go very sour if you disrespect her in any way, if you are not willing to negotiate and compromise at times or pick your battles when you need to. This is the mother of your children. And you need to also take into consideration every decision that you make has to also be, to some degree, in their best interest as a mother to your kids. I see it going bitter so many times, and it's just unfortunate to see how it affects their kids down the road. And especially if you have older kids through this transition, some of them may understand what's going on. And the advice I'll share with you, again, this is from one of my good friends who went through a divorce at about the same time as me, but has older kids who are in university. He simply said, instead of focusing on the negative aspects between the relationship with the mom and dad, focus on the lessons that can be learned and how to make better decisions on choosing better partners down the road. You never ever want to trash talk your mom or your ex in front of your kids. That's a huge no-no, because again, it'll be a behavior and an opinion, a formed opinion and perception about their mom that will be very difficult to erase. And they'll take that into consideration when they start trying to find a new partner in life. This is their mother, so please have respect, have patience, and deal with it with grace and dignity if you can. But the one final thing I'll leave you with, this is a very long journey that you're going to be on. I know I still have over 13 years until my kids become adults. But the one thing that is waiting for you at the end of this is that you have to remember your kids, when they get old enough, when they're at an age to fully understand exactly what a relationship truly is, what are the implications of what a divorce can cause onto a family and to the parents. And not only that, you and your ex have treated them with so much love and care and support. They will appreciate it so much, and they'll thank you for that later on in life, because throughout their experience, they're also going to be exposed to other kids, other friends who also come from divorced families, and they might not have had the best experiences with their parents because they couldn't put a plan together for the best interest of their kids. And that's the most unfortunate part about this whole situation, is not every child comes out unscathed. So as much as you can, please work with your ex, do it with respect, do it for love of your children, and most importantly, do it with love for yourself as well, because you deserve this the best life for their kids in this next chapter. So I hope this video finds you well. I wanted to give a special shout out to Eric, one of my new subscribers who suggested this video. Thank you so much for your support. I know you're going through this as well, brother. Stay strong. Sending prayers and thoughts to you and your family. You got this. You can do this. With that said, thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace out.